Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack a pretty dense, fascinating theological treatise, but we're going to do it using some of the most relatable metaphors you can possibly imagine. We're looking at a paper called The Tree and the Ornaments, and what's really cool about this is that it doesn't present Catholic theology as just some rigid list of rules. Instead, it frames it as this universal grammar, a living structure that organizes literally all of human reality, our culture, and even our deepest longings.
So let's dive right in by asking what might seem like a really weird question. What exactly do Star Trek, a messy pile of Legos, and Catholic theology have in common? I know, it sounds like the setup to a bizarre joke, right? But the answer actually reveals this massive hidden structure behind how we view reality, the stories we tell, and basically the ways we try to understand our entire universe.
Moving into Section 1, The Tree and Ornaments.
The crucial point here starts with a super important distinction. On one side, you have abolition, this idea of just throwing away partial truths. But on the other side, we have fulfillment, putting everything right where it belongs. The author argues that Catholicism claims to be this universal grammar that actually doesn't abolish human longing or scientific discoveries or even cultural myths. No, it fulfills them. It doesn't just walk into the room and yell, "Trash it all!" Instead, it takes all these little fragments of truth and places them exactly where they belong in the grand design.
To really grasp this, I want you to picture a giant Christmas tree. In this framework, Jesus and Catholic revelation represent the tree itself. And all those cool human stories, our mythologies, pop culture symbols, and scientific models, those are the ornaments. Now, some might be gorgeous glass angels, while others are, messy macaroni crafts. But the thing is, while the ornaments might be beautiful and meaningful, they don't hold the tree up. The tree holds them. If you take down an ornament, the tree is absolutely still standing.
Let's move on to Section 2, Roots, Vine, and Sap. So let's look at how this tree actually grows. And this part brilliantly illustrates the concept of the Trinity in a really clean, logical way. Think of the Father as the absolute source, kind of like the ultimate reference point or home base. The Son, Jesus, is the visible grammar. He's the vine we connect to so we can actually see and understand the Father. And the Holy Spirit? Well, the Spirit is the living participation. It's the sap that flows through the whole tree, keeping us, the branches, from drying up into sad, crunchy little twigs. Let's apply this to the universe as a whole. Imagine a million random Lego bricks just dumped into a chaotic pile, and compare that to an intelligently structured Lego castle. According to this theology, creation isn't just a random cosmic blender of disconnected objects floating around. It's deeply ordered, meaning literally everything, from the orbits of the planets down to our daily human relationships, connects and relates by a specific intelligent design. Which brings us to how we actually know about this order. Think of it this way. Imagine there's a huge treasure hidden under a scratch ticket. Scratching it just lets you see the prize. You didn't invent the prize with your fingernail, right? It was already there. In the same way, God doesn't invent truth on the spot like some kind of magic trick. Revelation is simply pulling back the curtains so we can finally see the structure and the truth that was sitting there the whole time.
Okay, on to Section 3, Wells of Access.
So you might be wondering, how does this actually build into our daily spiritual lives? Well, when we talk about names or religious rites within this grammar, they aren't just empty labels or meaningless stickers you slap onto a concept. Not at all. They are wells. They are active, stable, and completely reliable access points to a deep divine relationship.
And this is exactly how the paper defines sacraments. They are visible, material signs that act as wells, providing access to invisible divine grace. Think about a physical well. It doesn't manufacture the water underground, it simply gives you a reliable way to lower a bucket and take a drink. In the exact same way, sacraments give embodied creatures, like us, a tangible way to access God's grace. You don't worship the well, you use it to get to the water.
Which takes us to Section 4, Hanging the Ornaments. Now it's time to actually start hanging some of those pop culture ornaments onto our tree. Think about human longing in our stories. We've got Sharon the ferryman from Greek myth, Star Trek transporters, sci-fi portal guns, and all sorts of mythic spirit guides. Our human imagination just keeps reaching for the exact same theological truths over and over. We continuously imagine this deep need for guidance and rescue across scary boundaries. Why? Because these recurring tropes are really just ornaments. They reflect the deeper Catholic truth of threshold passage and our innate human understanding that we absolutely need help crossing over.
And the ultimate threshold, of course, is death.
In this grammar, death isn't just a cosmic delete button. No way. It is a threshold passage, and it's one that requires purification and guidance. The paper points out that purgatory isn't some cosmic timeout chair where you go to be punished. Actually, scratch that, it's more like getting cleaned up so you don't track mud all over heaven's pristine carpet before the big event.
Let's wrap up the structure with Section 5, the wedding feast. This brings us to the ultimate purpose of all this structure, all these roots, branches, and ornaments. The end goal of this universal grammar isn't just, be a good person, it's the wedding feast of the Lamb. It's a joyful gathering of communion where no true relation is wasted. Heaven isn't some abstract database or endless boredom sitting on a cloud playing a harp. It's literally the ultimate party where all those true branches and beautiful ornaments we've been talking about are brought together into a massive, joyful communion.
To prove that this isn't just some abstract academic theory, the paper points us to Father Walter Cizek. He was a Jesuit priest who spent 23 years in Soviet prisons and labor camps. In the midst of just unimaginable hardship, he crossed a terrifying threshold and found that surrendering to God's will became a vital survival mechanism. He wrote that suddenly, across that threshold he'd been so afraid to cross, things seemed so very simple. Cizek realized how incredibly easy it is for us to rely on our daily routines and our own resources when times are good. But when everything you rely on, your status quo, your freedom, your health is completely stripped away from you in a Siberian labor camp, you realize a profound truth. You realize that God is the absolute only true foundation holding up the tree. He is the one who ultimately supports and sustains us.
And this brilliantly illustrates the practical, everyday application of this entire grammar. Cizek learned that God's master plan isn't some hidden, mysterious blueprint written in the stars that you have to somehow decode. It's actually much simpler than that, and sometimes much harder. His will is simply trusting him through the exact 24 hours of each day. It's the people, the places, and those gritty, unglamorous circumstances placed directly in front of you today.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, we return to that beautiful image of the tree. As you look at the fragments of truth in your own stories, your personal struggles, your daily routines, and even the culture you consume, we have to ask, what ornaments are you bringing to the living tree? And more importantly, are you ready for the feast?